Jonathan Romley, I want to introduce first. He grew up and started his first companies in LA, in Los Angeles. He then started working with Vutal, and his commute stretched to Silicon Valley. But as Vutal grew, his commutes stretched to Ukraine. And after a little while, he just moved here. Now he's a Ukrainian, American-Ukrainian, is that right? American-Ukrainian. And he leads a company called Avarla, which is an e-commerce logistics company. It's very difficult to do e-commerce in developing markets, dealing with payments, dealing with delivery, and that's what Avarla does. He's going to lead the e-commerce workshop, or rather not workshop, but panel, with a couple of great CEOs that have proven that e-commerce can be a very big business in Ukraine and Russia. So we have Andriy Logvin, CEO of Modna Kasta. Most of you probably know, one of Ukraine's rising stars in e-commerce, fashion e-commerce site. And as it happens, we also have Florian Jansen, co-founder of Moda, one of Russia's rising stars in e-commerce and fashion e-commerce. And joining them is Corrado Tomasini, who runs developer relations for PayPal in Europe and Middle East. And PayPal is huge for e-commerce around the world and just opened up in Russia in March, and will probably soon be coming to Ukraine. So please join me in welcoming them for this important topic.
That's perfect.
So great, guys. Hi, I'm Jonathan Romley. I'm the CEO of a company here in Ukraine called Avarla. And I'm joined here today with Florian, Andriy, and Corrado, as Vitaly has shared. So I guess beyond what we've just heard about your businesses, I'd really like to know from each of you just a little bit about your company and what your company is doing today in Ukraine.
Then you should start.
No, we're gonna start with you, Florian.
Okay, so what we do right now in Ukraine is preparing our launch of a full-price e-commerce fashion destination, which I think hopefully all Ukrainian consumers will know in a year from now, in the next conference. Besides that, we are running a customer service function in Zhytomyr, and with about 300 people already. So that's, I mean, the business we have for more than half a year already.
Modna Kasta. Today, I believe that we are selling, we're the biggest internet company in terms of online sales in Ukraine.
The biggest internet company in terms of online sales?
Online fashion sales in Ukraine, yeah. We've got roughly 450 people, couple offices, and you know, in couple metrics, KPIs we delivered this year up to 1 million orders.
Okay, good. Andriy, what's the most difficult part of doing business in Ukraine? I'm going to talk a little bit about Ukraine, I guess we will, and then we'll kind of expand out so we can talk about new markets, emerging markets, and opportunities. But what's the most difficult thing as an e-commerce company doing business in Ukraine? Single most difficult thing.
If we are starting from the major stuff, I would say delivery. It sounds like strange to the Russian guys, but still.
Well, the Russian guys run their own delivery service, so it must have been a problem for them too.
Yeah, but this country is a little bit bigger than Ukraine, yeah?
Kind of, yeah.
No, the problem is that the end customer is expecting the high level of service from our, like we do it on in internet, right? And in reality, it really differs from the real thing. And yeah, it's kind of limitations. And second thing, I will say that we are COD country, so we do something like 92% cash on delivery, and it reflects our cash flow, and it gives us cancellation and stuff like that. And the last thing, I will say the internet penetration is the global thing. We still do not have the proper mobile networks, and that limits the e-commerce and internet growth, basically.
So what's the single most difficult thing?
Delivery is the first answer.
Okay, all right, good.
I have a slightly different opinion. it's very difficult, I agree, but I think e-commerce is not about doing one thing great, but it's about doing basically the whole chain great, and starts with the assortment, proper marketing, then of course delivery at some point becomes a great challenge. But so because you need to be great everywhere, you need to have really extremely driven people, and in particular in a country where stuff does not exist, so you can't rely just on partners, or rarely can. Like there is no DHL like in Germany here, right? So or UPS. So because of that, you need extremely good people, and there is, I think, it's extremely unlikely you find exactly the people you need for that kind of aggressive culture. So you basically need to form this culture and then try to integrate people who are at least close to that. So I would say HR is the underlying thing that is most difficult in Ukraine and in Russia, of course, as well.
I can agree. I don't think it's relative just for internet business. It's the general problem in post-Soviet countries.
Yeah, but the requirement for speed, I think, is in e-commerce much higher than in offline brick-and-mortar business, etc. That's why I would say it becomes an even more important part. But the better the people, the more aggressive the guys, the faster you can ramp up your own delivery, given the lack of delivery partners, reliable delivery partners, etc.
Yeah, got it. So you guys have two fundamentally different business models. So tell me about your business model at Moda.
Okay, ours is very simple. It's we buy goods and we sell goods, and of course we need to distribute them physically. It's actually very simple. There is a good thing about it. You can really develop a fashion destination because you're buying expertise, and the way you market your merchandise, etc., can really become a destination that people are attracted by. And that brings your repurchasing rates that are, I think, remarkably higher than in, let's say, discount-driven business models. Mm-hmm. On the contra side, I would say you need to have a lot of cash. I mean, you need to have deep pockets to pre-finance the inventory. So in that sense, there are a couple of downsides. So
well, you guys have real deep pockets, right? Your last funding round was $150 million?
130, yeah.
$130 million. Okay.
Good. Yeah,
but how much of that goes to inventory?
I can't give you a figure. How much we
not
spend
specifically, but I mean, is the large portion of that going to acquiring inventory? I mean, as much as you can share, how much of that pitch to the investor is we have to buy a bunch of shit?
So I think what investors in Ukraine and also in Russia, what they buy is that you have the expertise to build this fashion destination, and that you have the expertise and the infrastructure to deliver the fashion. Mm-hmm. So that's, I think you can also, I mean, derive from that statement where our money goes. Of course, part goes into inventory and respective marketing activities, etc., but also a lot in the delivery and remaining operations infrastructure. Mm-hmm. I mean, built a huge distribution center near Moscow with state-of-the-art technology in there, and we are now present in close to 30 cities with our own courier company called Moda Express. So this is stuff that definitely requires certain investment too. Yeah. But it pays off, otherwise we wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Andriy, let's talk about your business model. So please share.
It's a bit simpler. We don't buy. Yeah, we 100% of our stocks is consignment. So we basically take a couple examples, making a shooting, and putting that stuff on the website. How
do you source consignment? I mean, do you guys just call it? Is it just from retailers and distributors in Ukraine that have leftover merchandise after a season?
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's just you're targeting them in Ukraine. Local, you're not globally sourcing.
Exactly.
Okay. And what does that pitch sound like? So if I wanted to start a company that would compete with you.
Yeah. So the first pitch was very simple. We just said that we doesn't care about the margins and conditions. We just need to show that the business model works. So we knew that we had the hypothesis that the offline retailer has some stock, and we can transfer it to the cash. And yeah, it was just the beginning of the business. Now we don't need to show anyone or to say anyone that it works. That's only a matter of conditions. And I believe that the key suppliers in Ukraine knew how to get rid of the stocks.
Let me be provocative, just a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, you only get overstock, right? I mean, you get stuff that the suppliers can sell elsewhere. How can you build up attractive inventory then?
What do you mean attractive?
I think what he's saying is, and even since I can be provocative, I think he's saying that how can you build a business on selling things that people don't want to buy in the first place?
Yep.
I mean, obviously it's working for you, but is that what you're asking?
Exactly. How is it working? Yeah. I mean, how can you sell people stuff that they didn't want to buy in the first place, or that apparently the suppliers couldn't sell to anyone else before?
The only reason is price. So my point of differentiation is I have the lowest prices in offline, in online market. So selling that stuff 90% off the first price, for the customer is a good reason to make that. Mm-hmm. And basically what we do, we educate the market because the word of mouth, spreading all over the internet that you can buy some luxury things minus 80%, and that's real. So yeah, it pushes a lot of people transfer from offline to online.
Okay. So how is your business model different from if we look at a company in the US like Gilt? They're, to my understanding, maybe they are now, but last I heard, that's a company that's not profitable. Your company is doing well, as I understand.
Yep.
So what's working for you? Is it the Ukrainian market that's working for you, or do you have a vision to move beyond Ukraine with this model?
Now, we think that the Ukrainian market is just the beginning, and there is a lot of room to expand here. And answering on the first question about the Guild, we're quite similar business models. Mm-hmm. We do actually the same, but Guild experiencing a lot of competitors and rivals. There are a lot of guys, Rulala and Zulili, a lot of different huge companies, over $500 million revenue. And what is the interesting thing in shopping club that you always fight for the good stock, as you're saying. So you always have to be first on the stock. That's why I believe that this business model is successful when there is only one player on the market. Mm-hmm. Then you are first on the stock, and then you're providing the best prices to the end customers, okay. And then you can play with the margin. Guild is a bit different situation. VIP Shop is a good example from China. These guys are total dominator on the China market and sales higher than $1 billion already. And they're the only shopping club in China.
How do you make your deliveries? Is it through a courier, or you guys manage the deliveries yourself?
Yep, yeah, 100%. We deliver through the 3 companies in Ukraine.
You deliver through
3 companies.
What is it, like Must Express, Nova Posta, and
in Postman, yeah.
In Postman. Why 3 different companies?
That's a long story. We tried everybody. I mean, try a lot of variables in this part of process, and volumes matters and quality matters, and we didn't expect that the Kyiv customers Kyiv will be a big problem for us because we expected that it's a very compact city, yeah, but we had a bunch of problems starting delivering that. Yeah, but we think that we've already found a good balance between this company, mm-hmm. And if we say, I'm always saying that if it will be one company with the size of New Post, with the quality of Mist Express and service of Postman, we will have DHL in Ukraine. So, and now I believe that we find the right balance to our delivery process.
How much does delivery time matter? Are your customers generally looking for the lowest price?
I think for Florian that will be the key question. But for us, when we we are selling the discounts, and believe me, the major part of customers will forgive you everything if you will deliver 90% off the Gucci shoes to the customer. Yeah. They will wait, I can say, for ages for this purchase.
And then they're willing to wait for ages.
Exactly, yeah, for this price for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jordan.
I think again there's a convenience model which we run, and there's the price differentiator model, which is absolutely different. And,
but the most successful models in this market now are the price differentiators, because domestic retailers in Ukraine really can't. I guess they really can't compete. I mean, if you run a white e-commerce business here, you are essentially having to price at the same price as retail, or maybe like a little bit less. But I think that when you look at a number like 35% of internet connected Ukrainians don't actually even want to buy online, how can you really address that?
Yeah, so I have actually a question on this. So it's you're mentioning your business models, and given that our business model is always the same since '98, so we're always taking a cut in the middle between the seller and the buyer and the seller, and taking the cut only from the seller standpoint, of course. I was wondering, which is the percentage of mobile, and given that you are the main payment system is still cash and delivery in this area, which is the percentage of mobile so-called transaction, or let's say a checkout experience that you are experiencing on your platform compared to the web experience, and given also the internet penetration? So which is the mobile penetration of e-commerce, of mobile commerce here?
We got two positive trends now. The first is the mobile, and second is credit card payments. Mobile is growing from 3% last year, and now we have roughly 14–15%. Okay. In sales, and
in 1 year.
Pardon?
In 1 year.
Yeah, that grows in 1 year, and credit card payment also is growing.
So you take credit cards?
Sure.
Really?
Exactly.
How many people? What percentage of your orders use credit cards to?
As I told you, that's it's roughly 9% now, but it grew from 3%.
Very interesting. And for you, what percentage, if you don't mind, of your orders are paid by credit card? Because you actually you accept PayPal in Russia.
22.
Yeah, we were exactly in Russia, one of the first fashion destination actually that was integrated with PayPal. To be quite open, PayPal and also credit card is something that in the Russian market doesn't really have a huge acceptance yet. I think the big driver is here. Not that people are afraid of purchasing something online with their credit cards. I mean, they do it a lot when it comes to travel, etc., or coupons. That's when they use the cards. But the delivery model is basically not a stimulus to use prepayment, because actually what you do in Russia, you give people the choice at the door. There's a 15-minute try-on time to choose. You put 5 items in the order and choose 3.
Which is a very different model than anywhere else that I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
So if I make an order from Moda, and I'm in Moscow, you will bring things to me. I can try them on. I give you the money for what I want. You take back the things that I don't want to buy.
Exactly.
And do you know of anywhere else in the world that's doing this kind of model? That is, I mean, that's actually bringing it to you and not sending you things and having you send them back?
Oh, in that extreme, there's, I mean, I haven't seen that in any major market. There are a couple of, African countries where this is at the moment a kind of experimental phase, but I don't think there's any major market with that kind of model. So, but the result is that people have no really incentive to use a credit card or to use PayPal, because then they have to wait for refunds and have additional transaction. And so, in the Russian model, there's exactly one interaction for the customer that is at the door. So even more important that you manage this interaction extremely well, right? So we started to move away from running a courier service and started to run a sales force, because what you ultimately do is you sell at the door.
That's interesting. So do you see the same kind of growth in terms of mobile transaction, mobile checkout that is seen?
So mobile-wise, I think it's a similar development, yes. I mean, it's a huge trend. The interesting thing is you see in certain regions which had in the past very poor internet connection, not really convenient to search.
Yeah, we have an edge here.
So, but now in a couple of cities, they start to have 3G, 4G even, and so many people kind of skip the desktop and just start their first e-commerce experience on mobile, on tablets. So I think that's really an interesting.
Okay. So, and do you think that investing in the sales force, as you are saying, is more a short-term kind of way to address the fact that cash on delivery is really the main way to let's say to do e-commerce, or it's a sort of, don't you see in the middle term a switch in the behavior of people in Russia or in countries like
I don't want to be disappointing here, but I don't see a huge increase in credit card or any other online payment unless the delivery model is fundamentally changed.
Yeah.
We charge for delivery, so we can play a bit with the delivery payment, and that's why we can push the credit card payments. So, for example, we don't charge if you buy with a credit card in Kyiv and you have a pickup point in our office. It pushes like 3 to 4% of all sales through the credit cards. So we can play with the delivery cost, and yeah, it gives some incentive for credit cards.
Okay.
So let's think outside of Russia and Ukraine for a moment. E-commerce tends to be one of the first businesses that works in emerging markets, and also one of the first cycle of companies that tend to see an exit. Stepping outside, I mean, well, I guess really the first question is, when you raise so much capital, and I don't know if it's public, how much money have you raised?
The first round was $10 million.
The first round was $10 million, and you've raised one round?
We're finalizing the second one.
And you're finalizing a second round. And you are, and is it an investment, or are you owned by is it a South African company?
Yeah, Naspers.
And do they own your company, or they've just invested just like an investor?
They are the major shareholder.
They're the major shareholder. And so when you started, and you're also the founder of the company,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
So you had an idea and you went straight to them, or you launched it with, how did you get your company started? Because these kind of businesses can be very capital intensive.
As a long story, so we started from an idea, just read it, some articles one article in the Forbes about Oscar Hartman and the QPV story, that famous guy, and yeah, just called to some angels, asked and proposed them to start that business, and we do it very quickly. I mean, like in 1 week. And in that time, I was the CEO of telecom company, so I couldn't manage that. And first year of Modna Kasta, I was in a separate business, but then I joined with my team, something like 2 years ago, and Nasper joined the company exactly in the time when I joined it. So we were together for 2 years, and the last 2 years was the major jump in the revenue and sales.
And outside of Ukraine, where else do you see there being this kind of opportunity for this business model that you have? Are there people doing it in other markets, or is this a business that you see the structure scales beyond Ukraine, or what's sort of your vision for the future of your business?
Naspers is a big company. They are present in 130 countries and something like 600 companies in portfolio. So they have a bunch of shopping clubs in Europe. So we have some opportunity to study the cases, and we can say, it was for a while it was like a big question if this sustainable business model or not. Yeah, there were a lot of questions on the stock and expanding. But
do you think it would really be Europe, though? Wouldn't you maybe want to look at a market that had similar characteristics, like a trade block around it? Or you would look to Europe to duplicate your model?
You know, we don't think about replication. Again, having, you know, we are not just pure online company. We're not PayPal, right? So we cannot just open an office in Zambia and going with that business. Because
would that be where you would go, though? It would be Africa?
Africa for sure. Yeah, we're quite familiar with this region. I mean, Naspers is totally dominate in that region, from South Africa to the north part. But we have a huge backend and logistic fulfillment, all that stuff, and you should. It's very connected with the local things, and it won't. I don't see the synergy between expanding on the different market. I prefer to be #1 in a country like Ukraine than to be like #2 or #3 in a number of countries.
And is that just for the sake of being #1? Because you could be #3 in a larger country and make more money than you do being #1 in a smaller country.
You know, I don't believe in being a couple years in e-commerce. I believe that business will survive only for it will be profitable only for the first #1 player. The second and third will face a lot of challenges, and
even with your model where you don't have inventory.
Sure, especially because of that, and especially in shopping club business model.
Okay. Well, so outside of Russia, Moda is in Kazakhstan. Why did you choose to go to Kazakhstan before Ukraine?
Because of the synergies. I mean,
because of the customs union.
Exactly. There's customs union. There's a good enough transport infrastructure which you can utilize, and most importantly, there's a much easier business environment. I mean, now having experience in all 3 countries besides Western Europe, I would say Ukraine is probably the one which is most bureaucratic, and definitely for outsiders, least transparent. Hence, we just picked the easier choice, and I think it was a very good one, as we were absolutely the first one in Kazakhstan, and now have a market penetration and a brand awareness that we wouldn't have as a #3 as an entrant coming like a couple of years later. So I think there is a first mover advantage indeed in a country like Kazakhstan. Like 80% of our customers there make their first e-commerce experience with Moda. So there's really a lot of education going on. If you educate them the right way, they come back. And as our business is very much a customer lifetime business, as I think every full price e-commerce, I mean, you make rarely your money back on the first purchase. You need to have repeat purchases, and this is in particular in a country where you have first-time e-commerce customers. Serve them well.
80%. So 80% of the people that are buying from Moda in Kazakhstan, it's the first time that they've bought online.
Exactly.
That's incredible. Yeah. So how much of a challenge is that for a company like PayPal?
Which kind of challenge?
Well, I mean, or I can phrase that a different way. What markets is PayPal not in?
So we are not yet in a market, as an example, talking about Africa, where let's say there is not enough level of internet or mobile penetration. So we, as an example, in Africa we are present in South Africa and in Kenya as main countries where we are doing activities, interconnecting with the banking systems on doing agreements with local banks in order to drive consumers acquisition, so purely PayPal accounts that can be leveraged once the local ecosystem will be more mature from the internet and the mobile standpoint. And we move following the criteria that I was highlighting at the beginning. So basically, it's really the market potential in the middle short middle term that is moving the next adoption of, let's say, the next deployment of the PayPal platform in the market. So that Russia is definitely, has been, and it is definitely a high potential country, in the highest potential country in the European region after the UK and after other markets, relevant markets. And all the Eastern European area, including Ukraine, are incredibly interesting for us from that standpoint.
But it's really late market entry for PayPal in a lot of these markets. I think like, for example, in Ukraine, we have online payment processors that are online payment processors which are already developed.
Yep.
Right. So how do you come into a market? How do you go into a market where there's already an established ecosystem and not just, I mean, other than saying, do you make, would the company make an acquisition? Or would you come in and just say, well, we're PayPal, so we'll figure it out?
No, so it's, so payments is a very particular industry. So you have, in order to have a global scale like we have, you need to be present in multiple countries, in many currencies, deal with many regulatory regulamentations locally. Mm-hmm. So it's, if there is a, let's say, a first mover already in the market and we are interested in this market, of course, we move to that market, driving this global scale that we have. So there are local, very strong local players, but they are strong in that market. They usually, or typically can't provide the same level of scope and scalability that we can provide locally. And we start nurturing the ecosystem from both sides. So we need the three main stakeholders of every ecosystem from our standpoint in order to drive a successful presence in a country. So we need consumers, and consumers are driven by consumers-focused activities or by the fact that consumers are buying and are doing e-commerce also in e-commerce from other countries, from a country where potentially we are not present. Then we need merchants, so we need merchants acquisition, and when I talk about merchants, I'm talking about online merchants, but also offline merchants now, and we need developers and startups. So developers and startups can create the innovation and can disrupt business models in established ecosystem, and we provide them the payments infrastructure. So creating innovation in payments is not easy because it's different. It's difficult to scale. It's difficult to deal with the global regulamentations present in many countries, apart from exceptions like the European Union or like the United States, where you can get a specific, once you are compliant, you get a local license in order to transact money. You can do it across many countries in the European Union and in the United States, across all the states of the Confederation. Elsewhere, you need to deal locally with the regulamentations. So enabling the ecosystem, nurturing and supporting the three main audiences of merchants, of consumers, and of developers and startups, providing what they're looking for. So,
when you enter a market, how much on-the-ground merchant acquisition does PayPal do? So if PayPal came to Ukraine, how much on the ground, like, but on the ground I mean beyond just saying we're a developer network, because you have you're the head of the EMEA developer network. That's actually like a really wide net.
Yeah.
And I think each of those countries is, would you say, maybe has their own unique characteristics about them. So how do you address that sort of from the macro view when you have such a wide audience that you have to speak to try to acquire merchants?
Yeah, I can tell you that it's a bit easier from the developers and startup standpoint, so that are my main focus in terms of activities. From the merchant standpoints, we have, once we get in the market, like in Russia, we have in office, we have a sales and marketing force locally that is working directly with merchants, online merchants, mainly, of course, particularly in Russia, splitting them by volume. So basically, like all the companies, so we are dealing with local merchants in different ways, depending on the kind of potential that they have in the local market, but providing the best support that we can there. So we have the consumers and the merchants acquisition that is driven by let's say, a local force that is working with them, and the startups and the developer, regarding the startups and developers audience is a bit easier, so from the scaling standpoint, so it's a more homogeneous kind of audience and across the activities that are doing in EMEA as well as in North America. At different stages, but it's more homogeneous than the other two kind of audiences.
But when entering a market, you might find an ecosystem that's already developed.
Yep.
So if we took Ukraine, here there are three online payment processors primarily. There's Port Money, EasyPay, and then Privat Bank owns an online payment processor. with respect to entering the market where you have 3 participants like this already, where does PayPal fit in? And I'll give you a hint. Privat Bank also issues 50% of the credit cards in Ukraine. So how do you navigate that space coming into a new market? Is that unique? I mean, have you heard of that before? Or would that be like the first time PayPal came into a market and somebody controlled half of the credit cards?
No, there are other markets where there are strong players locally.
That also own online payment companies.
Yeah, no, but if I think about Russia as an example, there is, I mean, Yandex Money is a great player in Russia, and they're providing a service that is very similar to PayPal, comparable to PayPal. The competition, so I mean, the fact that consumers and merchants can choose differently locally, it's an incredible benefit for consumers. So they can really have multiple players that are providing similar services. So of course, country by country, we have different challenges depending on the local initial conditions. And we deal differently country by country, depending on which are the main
Andriy, would you take
like
PayPal on Modna Kasta?
Once internet and mobile will be available, probably.
I just want to say that I think that for PayPal, the biggest challenge won't be the competition. The biggest challenge will be to educate the market to pay with the credit cards online, because we've got 70, 80% of online retail market is black. Means that everything in cash. And
70, 80%, you said.
Sometimes I think it's more. And yeah, so the competition in the absolute volumes, there are some players on the market, but absolute volumes is really small. So that's just the beginning. And the winner will be the company which will educate the market to pay online. Yeah, and we are the only, I believe that the only audited white company in e-commerce in Ukraine.
Got it.
So what do you do to convince people that it's okay to pay with a credit card at Modna Kasta?
I have something, but I leave you. No, I leave it to you first.
As I told you, we have some incentives, so we're playing with the delivery charges, and basically we can, sometimes we even started from zero delivery payment if you pay with the credit card.
So by reducing the cost.
Exactly, yeah. And that's the main.
And all of your merchandise is final sales, so if I pay my credit card, you've got the money and I can't return it, correct?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
Makes sense.
Corrado.
Delivery services. So the quality of delivery services implicitly drives the use of credit cards and debit cards online. Because if I can trust the delivery of my goods, if I can trust the delivery services and get the goods that I've paid for, I'm keen to pay online. And this is a very important aspect that we are seeing in some markets like Russia.
A small anecdote on exactly this topic that people ordered, in particular Russia, like 3 years ago, before when we entered the market. It was quite common. You made like 15 orders from 15 sites, and 14 of them were basically cancelled. So if you made 15 prepayments, you have a lot of fun waiting for 14 refunds. I mean, so that was a very extreme thing 3 years ago, and it went down dramatically. I don't know percentages, but I think it's kind of okayish now. But still, in the meantime, the market has developed in a way to overcome all these trust issues that you have COD everywhere. And so there need to be a reason for customers to use PayPal over COD. And I mean, this is very difficult to beat. So I think there's one hope for PayPal. I think this is eBay. I mean, if eBay really goes aggressively into the markets and kind of pulls PayPal, then consumers might be educated over time, and then it really becomes a brand that customers or consumers trust. So I think that is still a hope.
Yeah, yes, I think this is a hope that there is something that we work on. So basically, we have markets where the local marketplace has been, as an example, acquired by eBay in the case of Marktplaats in the Netherlands or elsewhere. And so this has driven implicitly the adoption of PayPal, and then the adoption of PayPal at other merchants, so at other local merchants. In other countries, is more driven by the business development activities with merchants. So we work with merchants, and we don't own, as an example, in other countries, the local marketplace, the local leader in terms of marketplace. And so it's, there are some challenges, but there is a huge potential in Russia for us, and we are working on.
Yeah, just to give you an idea, like an incentive for e-commerce seller, the rate of unpicked up orders through the credit card something like 2%, and COD around 15. So the difference is huge, and it could be a good argument for PayPal to convince the retailers to go in this thing.
So we've got a few minutes left here. I guess final points, guys. What's your vision of the future for e-commerce in whether it's the market that you're in or a market that you want to be in?
Interesting. Not only in Ukraine and Russia.
Well, we're beyond Ukraine and Russia now.
Yeah. Well, here there is a huge potential in terms of development of many areas that are a bit more developed in other countries. Like we just talked about payments online. We talked about experience for the consumers in terms of delivery experience, positive delivery experience, and reduce the amount of frauds. And all these things are a sort of short-term vision for probably the country, so the Ukrainian countries and also Russia. If you look at a wider view, we have big challenge globally, that big opportunities that are driven by the fact that we are now seeing how the e-commerce is merging in a sort of way, and thanks to the mobile, with the offline commerce experience. So we see the biggest, let's say, growth in offline commerce, that is offline commerce experiences that are leveraging online searching experience or whatever other kind of contact that consumers may have at the retail with the online world in order to get a better price, in order to get a delivery, an instant delivery or quite instant delivery in 24 hours or less, in 1 hour actually. In the Silicon Valley there are services, not only the eBay services, but other services that are getting a delivery in 1 hour, guaranteeing this. And these are next steps, really middle and long term probably for the region, but how to deal and how to help offline merchants to integrate with the online opportunities. So not anymore 2 different worlds competing one against each other, but a vision that can be provided to the general merchants, to standard offline merchants in order to get their business online or in order to leverage the mobile revolution.
I'm a big believer in e-commerce, and it's just day one, as Jeff Bezos is saying every time, and I'm just starting to understand why. And I think the main reason for e-commerce future is that personalization. What does it mean? It means that when 1,000 people is coming to the offline shop, it's always the same. And when 1,000 people is coming to an internet shop, it will be 1,000 different shops. And according to your taste, prefers, likes, and Facebooks, tweets, and previous purchases, and according to your taste, right? So that's the key issue. And the second thing, we just yesterday saw the Amazon drones. It was a very good joke from Amazon about that, but in every joke, as you know, there is only part of joke. So solving the last mile question, I mean delivery in 30 minutes, will completely change the way how the people purchase.
Yep. I agree fully with your point of much higher e-commerce penetration in the future. I think the 1 point something, less than 2% that we have right now is absolutely, there's absolutely no reason that it stays like that. In particular, Ukraine and also Russia are countries where availability of certain goods infrastructure. So the second point that I believe is happening, large players which invested in infrastructure will at some point become the most efficient and also most likely the most used delivery companies in those countries. So unless like a DHL, etc., now catch up very soon. So I think there's some kind of emergence of new logistics platforms that we're going to see in Russia and also most likely then in Ukraine, I think.
Fantastic. Gentlemen, thank you for joining. Florian, Andriy, Corrado, I guess let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you.